Why I'm driving a big car? As a guru of the American, they should have a golden car. Not just a big car. It should be out of gold. And I'm speechless. What do you want to say? Prabhupada is his way with the Protestant. So, anyway, what else was there? Yeah, this, huh?
I was curious about what Prabhupada says about the relationship between book distribution, Harinam and Prasadam distribution, and how they go.
Essentially, there's no difference. The first issue came up, this movement was started not by book distribution, but by Harinam. Prabhupada already printed books. There was already books in the temples. And devotees were still going on Harinam because they didn't believe one can sell books. Nobody was a trained bookseller. And Prabhupada even opened the options that maybe these books will be sold by karmis. In the letters you find that. Somehow they have to be sold. Prabhupada didn't envision the book distribution being so gigantic as it became. Prabhupada wrote and expressed it again and again. He was shocked. And devotees too. Because by distributing the first book, they discovered a taste which was almost, you could comparatively spoken, even more intense as I now. So they got completely caught up with this. What is this? Anybody who started to go out in this book came back completely, completely excited. They said, okay, I have to try it out too, And it took very quickly such an avalanche, almost, form. These books going out, and Prabhupada was in ecstasy. He said, this is beyond our expectations, please do more. He even threatened that I will not write anymore if you don't distribute it. So, so you have to distribute it. So, Prabhupada put book distribution over the Harinam, but not diminishing the Harinam. Could just, okay. Just, can you try this on this? Yeah, so quotes in this regard, because obviously these issues came up. There are so many points that Prabhupada is stressing, the books being basis of everything, including the economy. Prabhupada saw already the Western Vaishnava mentality coming up, so he was warning that book distribution should not be killed by business. As it may turn out that by particular type of business you can actually make more money, more quickly money. It's good to have maybe these issues coming before, so I can prepare the quotes already, so we don't have to sit. Maybe we could have a list even with issues somebody writes down, and then I can come up already with all these things, here. This is one of these, there are many. Regarding Sankirtan, means actually Harinam, and book distribution, both should go on, but book distribution is more important. It is Brihad Kirtan. In Tokyo airport, one boy had come up asking me if he could speak with me. I said yes, and then he asked me, Swamiji, where do you get all the knowledge in your books? Of course it's Krishna's knowledge, not mine, but the effect is there. So, regarding Kirtan, book distribution is better. Book distribution is also Kirtan. over and over Prabhupada chanting the rules of the distribution. This problem we don't have today. This is general, actually this is to Matajis. This is Jagadhatri Pashupati Shailokata and Pamela Devi Dasi. Pamela doesn't sound exactly translated to me. Pamela Devi Dasi. I don't think this is Sanskrit. So, my dear daughters, and then Prabhupada writes, regarding the problem of how to be aggressive on Sankirtan and submissive in the temple, my request to you is that you should go on being aggressive on Sankirtan. Because the Matajis, they heard all the seminars about how to be humble and shy and Vedic and this, and then they try to do this in the street, in Western context. And you don't know what American Mataji is capable of, I remember that scene of one parikrama in Vrindavan, where we came up on this one kund, which is in the shape of actually a swimming pool. It's a square, long kund. It's kind of built in, In those days, 300 devotees on parikrama was normal. So, Srila Swami was the one who was always in the middle of the whole thing. He uses danda as a starting sign for competition, who is going to cross that pool, that kund, in the most fastest, efficient way. And then the Matajis was Vedic, the Matajis were on one side, and the Brahmacharis on the other. And because I'm not really into competition in swimming and this, I don't think I was part of it. I was just standing there. And then Srila Swami once he made even a competition, all devotees of all over the world against the Nazis. That was the German devotees. He was quite bold, So anyway, and this competition, I remember the Mataji somewhat with the saris, of course, swimming outfits. And then you should have seen the faces of these few Indian villagers who came to wash the laundry to that pond, to that kund, with this basket with the laundry standing there with really open mouth. Because Indians can really swim, they swim like dogs, And there was this, that competition was won by one manager from Australia, which happened to be at that particular time almost, I think, at least the Australian champion in butterfly, swimming style. Now, and the danda came down, and there was 300 devotees in the water just trying to get to the other side. Well, that Mataji was considerably faster as anybody else. So she won the competition. That was at least those days the parikramas. And these Indians, not only ever saw Vaishnava swimming like this, but on top of that, a Mataji in a butterfly style coming across so fast, totally shocked. So that was one of these parikramas. There is something called Nishinga Kund. You remember that? There was Nishinga Kund, you remember that? A very, very shallow pond where I think it had something to do with Nishingadev passing by. I'm not a parikrama, But that pond was very shallow and deep green mud. You stepped in the water and you were up to your knees almost in this green, muddy bottom. But it was quite shallow, you could stand like this. So immediately it was divided in two parties. This time Matajis were not involved. And the Brahmacharis, there was no Vyastas was there. So the one Brahmachari was sitting on the other like this, and then fierce battle ensued. Of course, it didn't take long. While splashing water on each other, somebody got more deeper and pulled out this green, muddy, this green mud with this grass, and they started to throw this around. So it became a big mud battle. There was another problem. That pond was really full of fish, this big. So soon somebody grabbed for the mud, but instead of the mud, he grabbed the fish. And suddenly all these fishes were flying around, through the air, wondering what's happening, So, and Srila Swami was again on the sure and firing again the world against the Nazis. You know, he was always on this point. So you know, this was one of these parikrama things. Those days, you know, my child is 25 years old. But end up with this. So Prabhupada writes, aggressiveness on Sankirtan, but submissiveness in a temple. I myself was aggressive in coming to your country. No one invited me. Even you, boys and girls, did not invite me. But I came and I preached aggressively, and therefore you are now my disciples. So know you know well how to approach the men and women of your country, and it may appear that superficially then you may have disturbed them. They are doing their business peacefully and you come and disturb them. Please take this Krishna book. Of course, it is good that you are concerned about being chaste and shy and submissive amongst your god-brothers. Chandrika Pandit said that every man should see all other women as a mother, and similarly a woman should see all men as their son. So what is your difficulty? If you are completely aggressive on Sankirtan, there should be no material aggressiveness and pride remaining. You have to distinguish between devotees and non-devotees. This is one of this. Regarding Sankirtan, again, Harinam and book distribution. Book distribution is also chanting. Anyone who reads the books, that is also chanting and hearing. Why distinguish between chanting and book distribution? These books I have recorded and chanted, and they are transcribed. It is spoken kirtans. So, book distribution is also chanting. These are not ordinary books. It is recorded chanting. Anyone who reads, he is hearing. Book distribution must not be neglected. If things deteriorate, that's another thing, but it is not a fault of book distribution. Yeah. So Prabhupada was not drawn into some controversy, what is bad, what is this. You know, but he made his preferences. So, generally, Sankirtan devotees are very enthusiastic to go on Harinam and chant together and just like that, naturally. It's just another form. And then, but then book has remained. Of course, that goes deep. You know, this goes on to the home of the conditioned souls and can be also distributed to others and travels around. It's like a continuous traveling kirtan on its own. Whoever opens it takes part in chanting, in hearing. Anything else?
I was thinking, sometimes we hear that, like devotees ask Prabhupada that, what should we say for book distribution? And
Prabhupada never specified, and you can see it in this text again. He said, you know the men and women of your country. So this part he really left up to the devotees. He gave some basic rules. One should learn how to catch the fish without getting wet. And then he gave the basic instruction about the attitude. My dear sir, you are so knowledgeable, you are so wonderful, you are so beautiful, you are so rich, you are so powerful. Please, can you for 1 second forget your opulences and take the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? That's the attitude mantra. That's the only thing Prabhupada said. And he is chastising the devotees sometimes too. He said, if they get angry and walk away, what have you done? But this is the result of your Buddhist devotion. But some people get angry anyway. That you cannot avoid. But generally, trained Sankirtan devotee and inspired Sankirtan devotee, very little. I know even from the super fascistic Germany where I spent most of my years, it was a very good training on this. Because as soon as you absorb a little bit of that fascistic mentality, trouble came immediately. But with the humility and some humor, at the end, I didn't bother even to face some opposition. I just moved around it. I was known to have actually for all these years, 15 years I was out there in Germany, I had the least of the trouble from all the devotees. Because you can avoid it many times. And we were attacked all the time. We had a ferocious propaganda, to face and so much trouble. But you can still avoid a lot. The Germans are specific. You either have to be very low profile, or you have to be even more heavy as them. They do accept that. So sometimes, rarely I took to the second option. Just as German language is beautiful for this. Maul halten, stillgestanden, umdrehen und abtreten. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
I feel like marching.
It's German. Shut up, turn around and keep on marching. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And they knew one word more and they will get another mantras coming out. So better that they just moved on. But it was in a very particular circumstances. You have to be very convincing on that point. Germany is like this, it's absurd. Can you imagine there is such a thing in Denmark? It's out of question. I don't know, I don't even need it. They go on their own. But they kind of float away, roll on. So that's okay. And Denmark it's a very peaceful place. Very peaceful place. You don't know what you have here. Too peaceful, that's the problem. To drilling, and then you go, ow. Ow. There was somebody drilling here. Ow. Before you provoke some. But usually people are just... There's this sliding thing, that's the whole problem. They slide, Just slide on you. They don't get stuck, they slide. You slide this way, I slide this way. We are all sliding here, I have my way to slide, and you have your way to slide. And therefore it's not so much response proportional to the preaching, which is coming like out of this temple. The response is quite minimal. Don't think that there's something wrong with that. This is simply how it is. This is lectures Prabhupada gave on a way where they were so depressed and so much endeavor to chant and to attract people. So little coming out of this. Prabhupada said, this is not our concern. We are trying hard, it's very good. Krishna can see that. The important part is always to check that things are right. You say the right thing, you do the right thing, and then the result is what? It's always good to think what could be done better, but not like, oh no, this is useless, and yeah, it's true. If you would transport this operation to the eastern or southern hemisphere, yeah. I met a few days ago on the street, I met a boy whose father was from South America, from Chile. And he was obviously religious, but not at all Hare Krishna, specifically interested. But he knew Hare Krishna. He said, when I go to Chile, because I'm sometimes in Denmark, my mother is Danish, my father is from Chile, I go to Chile down there to South America, he said, we are meeting all the time, the young people, he's a young guy. He said, we are discussing religion all the time. And there's Hare Krishna also coming, and we go, yeah, and they sing with us, and I sing with them, and I know Hare Krishna. And he was completely like, yeah. And then, he said, what the problem in Denmark is? Yeah, they don't speak about religion at all. This issue doesn't exist. Nobody wants to talk about it. But in South America, we are really coming together and discussing, Can you imagine such an atmosphere, how easy it is to enter as a devotee into such a thing? Obviously we don't have it. So there are places like this. So, or to speak of India, it's completely like, you just spark something, fire comes out. Here you can go, that was it. So it's not our business really to speculate over this. And Prabhupada showed it to us. That was the first time I met Prabhupada. Where Prabhupada arrived in Frankfurt airport. And by that time, I was kind of lucky because normally, after being 1 year around, one was automatically initiated. After being 2 years around, one got automatically Brahmin initiation. No test, nothing. It was kind of automatic, But I was already 1.5 years on Sankirtan. Before Prabhupada came, I was still not initiated. And it was good because I could get the initiation really directly from Prabhupada. They told me, no, there's no need to go for initiation, Prabhupada is coming. By that time, we had already 12 Sankirtan lands in Germany. It's a photo existing. And we just got a new temple. Not a very auspicious idea from today's point of view, but because those days, every yatra had to have a big castle. If you don't have a castle, you cannot preach. Something big. There was a big castle in France, there was a big castle in Italy, every acharya, Acharya had at least one big castle, probably two. In Italy, they had 3 at least, I think, already. In France, 2. Yeah, really big castles. Prabhupada liked basically castles, but he never, when you study the letters, he never initiated the idea. He always stressed the preaching. And in his days, I know when that castle came out, which is not a big building. I mean, it's big, but very difficult to live in. I went through the whole place. I mean, it's no rooms, it's just corridors, basically. It's just corridors and very big ceilings and very difficult. And it's not so warm in the winter in Toscana, You were there in the winter?
No, but I heard it's cold.
So it's fortunately there's huge chimneys, you can throw a whole tree in a chimney, it burns the whole day. This big things. And it's just anything is gigantic and worthless because, all the heat goes to the ceiling, which is 4 meters high, 4.5 meters high. So what do you do with that? You sit down there, you still are cold. And all these big halls and this and that. And the cellar area around several thousand, square meters, just because they were storing previously wine there inside and olive oil and all these kind of things. So there's huge storage rooms. For what? And then, very impractical place. But during the Zonacharya days, there was 350 devotees living there, which I heard was catastrophic. Because the water system and this kind of thing was not much different from here, So here we have 2 baptismal journeys immediately, where is the warm water and the whole thing. What to speak to have 350 devotees in the place, which ultimately were asked to move out and live in the tents and caravans. It became like a whole city, because it was around that waters. And then I heard horrifying stories. The police came and said, you cannot open a camping place like this. You don't have even the basic hygienic requirements here. Where's your people going to the toilet and everything, And I heard really catastrophic things going on. So Germany also got a castle, resulting in that all the small temples, which were basically houses of this size, I joined in a house of this size, they were all closed down very quickly. Quite a bad move, because when you see how big Germany is, suddenly we were concentrated in that one castle. Already from Sankirtan point of view, it became like pretty far, because they would still wanted to go to Hamburg on Sankirtan, or to Freiburg, that's completely opposite side, or or Munich or whatever, But that meant it was not 1 week I drove less than 1,000 kilometers. 1,000 kilometers a week was normal. Cannot imagine how many generations of cars we ruined. Practically every second year we had to completely buy new cars. So it's a long struggle, just the amount of cars being demolished. So when Prabhupada came, you see a photo of 12 Volkswagen buses standing there with a big Hare Krishna on it, which we later on removed, because otherwise you end up coming in the evening back to the car and the car was demolished. So, but in the beginning, especially Hansatuta's time was, we are here. We came to take over. The preaching was, this is one of my grandmothers on the street in megaphone announced, in the middle of the shopping street, these 22 boys and girls standing here, that's the German government in 2 years. I was like, no, Bhakta was going, oh my God, maybe when I'm in the government I cannot eat so much halwa, it's really a problem. Fortunately it never happened, but still, that was the mood. When 2 newspaper reporters, quickly after we got the place, that was after Prabhupada left, so 2 newspaper reporters coming in disguise joining the Bhakta program. And as the mood was just shave him up, great. And they were a little bit older as the standard age of a Bhakta. And they joined. One of them took it for 2 days, then he just ran out. So we said, hey, he blew. And the other one stuck it out for 1 week more, and then he also ran out. And then, 1 month later, a huge article appeared in a German magazine called Stern. It was called The Escape in a Transcendental Underwear. It was, hilariously slandering, and they had photos. They made photos of each other in front of Prabhupada Murti and with Prabhupada picture and shaved and this and that. It was all integrated there. And above all, there was a quote from Hansatuda, who took one of these bhaktas up the tower. The castle had a tower. You could go up. He looked on the landscape, and Hansatuda said, soon we own it all here, including the whole Germany. And they provoked him, of course, it was easy to provoke him. They said, how do you want to do that? You mean by some physical violence? Or? He said, yeah, we can shoot them all. There was all big headlines in the newspaper, magazine, and all this. That gave actually impetus where the authorities started to focus on us. And then 1 year later we got run over by the police with all money confiscated. And it was a huge court case coming behind which lasted for 3 years. And anyway, it's German training. So when Prabhupada came, he liked the castle actually. He liked it. So he arrived, we moved just, I think it was 1 month before Prabhupada arrived, we moved into that rather run-down facility. It was a big castle. Fortunately, it was of a more modern type. It was not a middle-aged thing. It was already divided into rooms, living rooms and things like this. It was not so impractical actually. It could have more heating and things like that, but still it was quite run down. And we didn't have the time to renovate. 1 month, what can you do with a castle? So we just had a very simple solution to that. Just bought an immense amount of color, buckets of this. And we painted. It was like a total marathon, I remember devotees standing on the ladder, 3 over each other and painting.